you know what's going to happen? A rich company like Brookfield Asset Management may come along and say, hey, there's a bunch of homes that people want. I'm going to buy all those $70,000 homes and I'm going to sell them for $500,000.
There's a saying in construction, measure twice, cut once. However, it doesn't seem like Mark Carney and the Liberals even picked up a measuring tape when they slapped together their solution to housing by promising to build over 500,000 homes a year for a rock bottom price of $70,000 per home.
Let's take a look.
In an election during a nationwide housing crisis, the Liberals have unveiled their plan to fix it.
We are going to build our way out of it.
Mark Carney's policy would make Ottawa directly involved in building homes. He'd create a new federal body that would act like a developer. It would place bulk orders on pre-built and modular housing and hand out $25 billion in loans to get new projects off the ground.
We will build at a pace not seen since the Second World War.
The Liberals also promised to give first-time homebuyers a tax break. They'd remove the GST from new homes under $1 million.
We will axe the federal sales tax on new homes.
It's a pitch Pierre Poilievre already made last fall, except the Conservatives say they'd give a GST cut to anyone buying a new home under $1.3 million.
We will not forget that young 36-year-old couple whose biological clock is running out faster than they can afford to buy a home and have kids.
This housing expert says the proposed GST cut won't help the majority of Canadians most in need of a home because they can't afford to buy a new one.
I'd say the GST proposal sort of plays to a myth that we can somehow get affordable home ownership simply or easily. We can't.
Instead, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh promises to ban large corporations from buying up low-income housing units. He says the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation should offer low-interest mortgages.
So there's a lot going on in that clip there, but I want to highlight how they decided to play the clip of Pierre Poilievre talking about, young couples in their 30s and their biological clock running out, because that's been, I would say, a particular sticking point for the left the last few days since he said that. Many people online especially are seemingly offended that, you can't have a healthy pregnancy, can't have children late into your 40s and 50s. I don't know.
Well, and I love how they have this housing expert kind of refuting what Pierre had said. And this dishonest approach by the mainstream media is just astounding. So they talk about Mark Carney's full plan in terms of building these homes as well as the GST cut, but they only mention one piece of Pierre Poilievre's plan and then move to undercut it.
No, not only that, but they show the clip, again, that is upsetting everybody right now.
Right. And it's like, Pierre Poilievre is essentially saying, well, if you can't afford a home, a lot of Canadians make the choice if I can't even afford a home, if I can't afford rent, then I can't afford to have kids. Right.
And I think that's reflected in our birth rate across this country.
Right. Our birth rate is atrocious. It is so far down, and the population of Canada would be going down every year if it were not for immigration. Now, let's not even go down that rabbit hole. But this is where we get into the Liberal housing platform. This is Mark Carney's platform. And one of the first things to note in the third paragraph on the left there is he says they want to build 500,000 homes per year. Okay, this is a pipe dream, folks.
Number one, we've heard this before. Justin Trudeau had said this, and I don't even remember if it was this past summer, 2024, or if it was the summer before that. And look, it didn't get done.
Well, they wanted to build something like 3.9 million homes or something like that by the year 2030, and it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. And they would be needing to build 0.951. So basically one home every minute.
Well,
folks.
and that's what they're saying again. They're making this same promise that we're going to build 500,000 homes a year, which is approximately one home per minute in this country. And they're also tacking on this caveat that, oh, well, we can do it for $70,000 per home. Are you serious?
And he also says that they're going to be standing up a new government agency. There's a problem with that, folks. They stood up a new government agency as well to handle the carbon tax.
And that costs Canadians $200 million a year just to administrate.
Right. So for something as simple as the carbon tax, costs us $200 million a year.
That's revenue neutral.
Right. Now you're talking something as complex as basically a government mortgage and lending agency that they're going to be lending taxpayers or builders our tax dollars.
Right. Like, let's go back to this chart. Let's take a look. So if you look at that second arrow in the right-hand column, it says the BCH, which is the Build Canada Homes, or this new bureau that they intend on creating with, our tax dollars, because they're going to have to pay people to work in this bureau. But the BCH will also catalyze the housing industry to create higher paying jobs by providing $25 billion in debt financing and $1 billion in equity financing to innovative Canadian prefabrication home builders. Where is this money coming from? Well, since it's a new government agency, you can guess that it's coming from the taxpayers. So, hey, let's take the taxpayers' dollars and invest it in building these homes. The homes that Canadians can't afford already, but we're going to take their tax money and build homes. How does this make sense?
Now recall, the government wanted to build an $80,000 app that ended up costing $60 million. Now the government says they want to spend $25 billion to fix housing. Now that doesn't take into any account at all, the salaries of the workers and the permit fees and the land acquisition fees and all of this other stuff. Now, they say they're going to build it on some government land, fine. But you don't even know the specs of these houses yet.
Well, and the thing is, when you buy a new home, you have to go through a lawyer and you usually give a deposit to have the home built. And that's your money. If something happens, usually you get that money back. You may have to take the builder to court, et cetera, et cetera. But the point being, it's all handled by the lawyer. What's going to happen if something happens with the government's just handing out money to these developers and then they go, I don't know, we can't build these homes. Thanks for the cash. See you later. Like, who knows?
Well, here's what's probably going to happen. So they're going to hand out all this money and say, look at all these affordable homes. You know what's going to happen? A rich company like Brookfield Asset Management may come along and say, hey, there's a bunch of homes that people want. I'm going to buy all those $70,000 homes and I'm going to sell them for $500,000. That's what's going to happen here, folks. Or they're just going to buy them and say, if you want to stay in here, the rent's $3,000, $4,000 a month. Have at her. That's what's going to happen here, folks. So this plan is insane. And for $70,000, you can't build his house for $70,000, Mark.
Well, you can do the prefab ones. And I suppose it depends on where you live in the country, because it's the land really that is the most expensive. If you're here in the GTHA, land is insanely expensive. But in some areas of the country, it's not that pricey, right?
Right, but even these prefab homes, you're going to need some sort of supports, foundation, whatever you want to call it. You're going to need to make sure they're insulated properly per Canadian building codes. You're going to need to make sure that the actual material is proper. There's going to have to be plumbing. There's going to be electrical. And you want to build 500,000 of these a year. Who's going to build them, Mark?
Well, and where are the factories going to be for these homes, these
right.
prefab homes? I mean, when we were in Prince Edward Island, it appeared that many of the homes out there were prefab. So they do exist in the country. They can be a viable option, but to have 500,000 of them?
And these are not going to be large homes, people. He even said there's no driveway. Okay. So Like, where are you putting these?
Many communities in Canada are not walkable. And I think this goes back to those 15-minute cities that they want.
It's just absolutely crazy. It's crazy that you want to stand up a government agency to do this. And it sounds like, again, as with everything else that Mark Carney does, it sounds like that the ultimate result in this is just going to be making the bankers and the financiers even more rich. And we're taking a loan of our own tax dollars, and that we pay back the loan of our tax dollars that we've already given to the government back to the government with interest. This is insanity, folks. It's complete insanity. So, you know, this whole business of, you know, we're just going to throw money at it, just like the Liberals always do, only worse, because remember, Justin Trudeau started this by saying, well, we're going to throw $8 billion as a housing accelerator. Well, Mark Carney is proposing to increase that by more than a factor of 3, probably 4, because we need to actually set up the government agency as well. And you're just magically 500,000 homes a year are just going to happen.